Hey, you have two.
So today we will talk about a little bit more. This is a huge topic at the end. If we talk about resource management, how we could leverage the platform to help us get better insights, outcome of the resource planning. Even project operations is not listed here, will be part of the presentation. I just put it in into and more to make more or less a kind of comparison. So when we have a look on the agenda, we will first talk a little bit about, here's the right slide, why we do need, or why do we need to talk about resource management? What could be common challenges? I tried to collect some challenges which could apply to different kind of companies, different sizes. Do we need a microphone, or is it okay when I speak louder? Okay, thank you. Still turned on, but there was always a sound in my ears when I use it. So, what are common challenges when we talk about resource management? Louder. Okay, now I need to scream. So, which means we try to collect some common challenges. They will not apply to each and every company in the same way, because companies are different processes, different sizes, different number of resources. But we try to collect some generic ones which may fit to more. Maybe Fabian, you can come. It's your core topic finally, right? So let's see if I can address that. And then we have make the switch to see what does Dynamics 365 offers us to tackle those challenges, or what could be applied in the different modules and how this could look like. We talked already a lot about AI today. So this will be the shorter part. There are other people who can cover that in much more detail compared to me. And finally, maybe at last, some best practices and stuff like that. Let me directly go to the slide. Yeah. Okay. So this is quite small on those screens. Can you read that, or is it? It's possible, okay. So usually when we have looked at what we see quite often are some Excel spreadsheets or some other stuff, how resource management is done. Excel is a great tool, and I still say the success for Microsoft is the reason for that is Excel, because you will find it everywhere. But there are a better way to do that. It's normally not the most efficient way how you can plan your resources, can really find the right people, which leads quite often that you staff the wrong people to the wrong tasks. It's not oriented about skills and proficiencies and things like that, so you will just pick the people you know and assign them to a task, which leads again to the next thing. So you normally, if you have 10 people in your company, or 100 or 1,000, it will always be the same. There are some people, they are really highly occupied, highly booked, they are nearly never available, but you want to have them for your project. And there are others, they have always some free capacity, and this is coming from the first point, because you always book your preferred resources, ideally, and avoid to start working with new team members or new teammates. This is again coming back to the Excel. If we do it in Excel, if we have it in that way, it is again a data silo. This is not connected processes, they are isolated from each other, they are not connected, they are not leveraging the information in the next step again. So you have maybe a good working solution, but it's not connected to the rest. And in many companies we see as well the demand over the years is not always the same. So we have it from resource point of view. Some people are more occupied or more utilized compared to others. And the demand over the years is changing. This is now depending which industry you're in or what kind of services you deliver, but this usually does not stay the same all in every month of the year. When we talk about Dynamics, at the end there's one name what we normally never use. At the end, the module inside of Dynamics who is responsible for the resource management, the resource scheduling, is not field service, project operations, or whatever. They all of them only use the unified resource scheduling, which is sitting in the background. Unified resource scheduling is contained the people, so the resources, it contains the skills, the proficiencies, the schedule board, all of those components what we use, for example, in field service or as well in project operations is finally part of the unified resource scheduling module. And this is where the strengths and as well the challenge comes in the same way. If you now have one tool what you use, it should serve all of those processes or different scope of tools. There are some imbalances in between. When we want to try to bring them on one line and see how we could leverage the resource management module for the different single modules like project operations, field service, and customer service. There could be more. So with unified resource scheduling, you could at the end define any activity in the system to be scheduled via the resource planning. And normally we talk about different things like project planning or maintenance tasks or incoming tickets. They have a different scope, a different size, what needs to be planned. So we have, usually in the one side we have to manage larger teams, while in field service we have normally a smaller group of people between 1 and maybe 5. In the typical ticket process, only one guy at a point in time is working on a ticket. First level, second level, third level, so multiple people over the time can be involved, but in the same moment in time, normally it's usually only one. So from maybe up to 300, which is the max limit currently of project operations, to 1, this is the range, what we need to cover. The same when we look at the time frame, the duration. Usually a project is not running for an hour or for a day. A project is running for multiple days, weeks, months, or years at the end. It depends. Typical field service occurrence, so you need to send out a technician to fix something on site, to do a repair for a machine or something like that. This is usually a task which is between hours or days and maybe multiple days, but not longer. Then you would split it again. A customer service depends. If your first level spends weeks to solve one ticket, maybe this is not longer a first level ticket, but it can happen. But usually we talk between minutes and hours, what they should have in time to solve that. So the level of planning, what we need to do for those people and those groups is different, depending on the scope what we see. The same, the activity types, what they are doing, or the devices they are using. So this will change. So we need to respect that while when we talk about the planning. But this could be some parameter to distinguish between the three modules to give you an idea in which bucket we should flow. Microsoft is offering with the whole Dynamics 365 stack or the Power Platform. The Dynamics 365 apps are only first-party applications delivered by Microsoft, built based on the Power Platform. So if we look on this ecosystem, on that part, we leverage all of the same data at the end in the background. So we do not have longer what I said at the beginning, isolated data or siloed data. The data is connected with each other or can be connected with each other. And in that way we can create an end-to-end insight into the planning. We have better insight into how the people are utilized, how the demand is created in the beginning, because we have as well maybe the sales data connected. So in the area of for example, of project management, we have maybe as well a project sales. So we are aware of the upcoming projects. So we can use that data as well for the demand forecast. When we only talk about customer service and we have different channels what are connected, where tickets are flowing into the system, we can see from the data in the past when maybe we need to have more resources available. For example, for a specific event, when we're running a contact center, for example, and we know there's a typical event in the city, then there will be maybe more calls coming into the call center. So this could be influenced at the end, how much people we need to have available in a certain point in time in the system. To be available to work on that. And in the end, the main idea of the whole stack is at the end to breaking down those silos, to create a connection between the records, to create the insights what we need to have a proper resource or demand planning in the system. And this applies for projects, for tickets, or for work orders in the same way. Only the scope at the end is the same. And even this is one of the use cases when we go later. Even the connection between those three can be there. For example, we now talk about a project. We run a project, but we need to send out somebody to do some stuff on site. For example, to do some measurements on site or some tests, running some tests. And this could be, for example, a work order, which is triggered from a project task. Same thing, we are running an implementation project and a ticket is created. Happens sometimes, right? So this could be as well part of the project, because the project team is maybe screening those tickets and deciding, okay, this could be done by the support, or we need to do it from a project side. So again, we have a connection between the two parts, and so we can distribute at the end the workload. And the rest of the Microsoft ecosystem is coming into place as well. So even the Power Platform and all that stuff is not isolated. We are only part of the bigger ecosystem, including all of those Microsoft 365 applications. Again, Excel is mentioned, but as well the Copilot or the agents, all the stuff is, we are working on one data, so the data can flow throughout the whole environment, and we can pick the data, pick the stuff whenever we need it, and use it for the processes. I think I'm a little too fast. Shall we make a short break? And I ask you if you have some questions already before we go to the next part. Yeah, except as well no questions. So we go.
Do you have
hands-on
session?
Hands-on.
Do you have customers that have project operations and field service and customer service in combination?
All three of them, I guess only one or two. But the combination project operations and field service is, for example, quite common. Especially for the use case I said before, when you need to send out somebody to do some stuff on site. Then this is typically planned with a work order, for example. It was easier in the past when we had this one license covering everything from Microsoft. Then we leveraged the different modules much more. In the meanwhile, you need to have different licenses for all of the stuff, which makes it a little bit more restrictive what you want to use and how you want to use. But I like the use case, for example, if you're selling machineries, for example, the whole development is done via a project plan. You need to acquire or to buy all the materials. You need to build the single components, the single parts. Then you have the pre-assembly done in-house, which is could be already a work order, for example. But then the finally assembly on the customer side is the last at the end of the last work order, where you send out specific teams. Because what I have not mentioned before, there's as well even if all of them are using, for example, unified resource scheduling, not each of the module can leverage all resource types from the unified resource scheduling. There is some restrictions behind, which gives more power to one or the other module finally. But please do not ask the reason why it is like that. This I cannot answer.
Yeah.
Right. Georg mentioned already this. I was quite happy in the morning when he already covered all of the points I had here on my slide. But at the end, he mentioned already some of the AI things, where AI can help us to make the things smoother. Because what is the huge strength as well? What Rupa mentioned is they did a lot of measurements when AI compared to machine learning delivers better results at the end. And when we talk about resource management, we usually have a lot of data in the system, what we can analyze. So what are the skills, where is the resource located, what he has done in the past, for example. This could be as well quite helpful for the staffing for the future. All of those things, the AI components can help us. But again, they are different. Different components are already available. In field service, for example, we have the competitive product, the unified resource scheduling optimization. which is leveraging the algorithm finder. You can set goals, and then the tool will automatically schedule all of the work orders depending on priority, distance, or assumptions like margin improvements or reduced travel time. Whatever you set as a scope will be done automatically. This works pretty fast, which makes it pretty hard to demo, because normally when you have unstructured data and you turn it on, and a couple of seconds later it is structured, so what happens between is quite hard to demo. Instead of project operations, they now start with the way of resource recommendation, that you select the task, click the resource recommendation button, then the system will see, okay, what was the time entries in the past, what were the tasks they staffed on, and give you some, as well, depending on the capacity and availability, what could be the scoring value for specific resources to staff at the end of the task to. In customer service, normally it's more analyzing the content of the income request, for example, to decide, is this a first level topic, or should I automatically route it to the second level? Or maybe we have people, they are more responsible for hardware or software or different types. So there, with the routing of the tickets, it could help us a lot by analyzing the unstructured email body, for example, or what was submitted on a request. And if we have, at the end, those always repetitive tasks what you need to do at the end, to write down the knowledge base article, or to close everything, or to do this and that, at the end of the task when you finish, this is well something where we can add some more automation, or can enhance at the end what we see here in the product. But that, my personal opinion, we are only in the starting here. What can be done? We will see much more things in the next 6 months, 1 year, or even 2 years. This will be the picture will change completely, I guess. I already covered this at the end, this part, slightly at least, when a little bit earlier. So when we this is the typical, this is one of the use cases built in field service out of the box, for example. A ticket comes in, the support request is created. A guy has trouble with his coffee machine or with whatever. The first level is looking at the things, try to solve the issue remotely, but he finds out it's not doable, so he passes to field service. The technician receives the work order, going on site, replaces the parts, and closes the work order. That's job done. Same thing here. What is important, we need to send the right people. So it does not make sense to send somebody from Hamburg to Munich to repair something. If maybe there's a colleague available a day later, which is already in Munich. But again, it is the scope what we want to do in the planning. Or we could go one step deeper to say, okay, like said before, we now have a running project where there some issues, some bugs are reported. They usually are reported in the ticket system, but they are related to the project, so they should be visible for the project team that they can take care of. And they need then to decide, okay, depending on what is incoming, do I need to pass it, for example, to the third level, to Microsoft? Do I need to work on my own on that? And then the systems can be as well connected. This is as well a pretty common connection, which is, coming back to the question, quite often in place. Connection between project operations and customer service. But again, all three of them is not that often. This was the second use case already, right? In that way, you can connect. You can as well build pretty good insights later on, because you see how many tickets have been raised, what was the root cause. If you do a root cause analysis, which should be done to identify what was the reason why this has opened, or is it happening in multiple customers. This helps us as well to identify if there is maybe a product issue which needs to be solved, or do other customers use the product in the same way, then maybe there should be a proactive warning or information coming out. So a lot of things can be done if you connect or combine at the end the system beyond the resourcing. I'm really fast, but at the end the next part is already, it's the last session for today, right? When we really have a deeper look into the different components of the resource management and try to identify the points how we can leverage it. So what is the goal of the organization, of the company, what they want to achieve, what kind of resources they have available or not available. Do they work only with internal or as well with external resources? So those are some parameters what you need to gather in the beginning. And if you then configure the system in the right way, then you see quite good an increase in efficiency, because even the insight into the data is already an increased efficiency in the beginning. So the outcomes are quite easy measurable in that way. Typically as well, this should lead to a cost reduction, because you won't send the wrong people to the wrong place. This first time fixed, what is the KPI for that first time fix? There's a KPI to measure how often you need to go on site to find a solution for the issue. So you can pretty good define KPIs in the beginning. This should be done in the beginning when you set up the goals, what you want to achieve. You should talk as well how we want to measure it at the end. That we know, was there a success after that or not? And if you define it in the beginning, it's much easier to do the reporting at the end. If you define it never, it's quite hard, then it's only guessing. If you define it at the end, then you usually have a lag in the base data in the beginning. So should be done in the beginning. It's the best way. When you have the right skilled people or for the specific task in the project, normally this leads as well to higher customer satisfaction. This would imply that you have measurement of the customer satisfaction. Then you only, again, same thing. But if people not always need to go back to ask the colleague, or if they can help it, then you have to improve that. And as well, it not only customer satisfaction, as well the people, your own people, your staff, they are as well more happy. And if they're more happy, okay, we're not paid for happiness always, but if I like what I do, I'm normally usually quicker or faster in that, instead of if I always need to do some new stuff. The insight again is quite important, because in that way you can identify lags or gaps, or you see the fluctuation coming on. And finally, if this is working in a small set of group, you can scale it with more resources, more projects, and more work orders, and so forth. So again, maybe one thing, when we collect, or at the end, when we collect the things from what we discussed over the years now in the meanwhile, it is really important to have a clear picture on the goals, what we want to achieve when we talk about resource management. Because not everything is doable, or not everything is doable in a one step, in a one shot. There is always up and downs what needs to be respected. Secondly, it's all related to the master data what we have. If our resources not maintained properly, if they don't have an assigned capacity or working time, if they don't have assigned roles or skills, we cannot plan them correctly in the project. So this is important data. It is, if you don't have connected HR system, which is giving us the data already, it is manual work which needs to be done, because only with that work we can use it in the other part of the process. So it's really, really important. And this is normally, we need to define the responsibility of the people who take care about the master data in the system. Start small, think big maybe. Don't try at the end, in the beginning already, to do it with thousands, 10,000, 100,000 of people in the one shot. Define a pilot group in the beginning, test what you have done, and then scale it, make it bigger, bring it to the next level, to the next group of people, to have as well the confidence that what the outcome of the tool is what you expect, or what you have defined in the beginning. By doing so, the processes or the life of the people will change. Human beings are not always happy about changes. I more want to do what I have done yesterday, because I know what I need to do when I do the same thing all day long. If it now happens differently, we have some simple examples. Sometimes a big issue is if the system assigns a task. Why is the system assigning me a task? He's not allowed to do so. I will pick my own task. This sounds simple, but can happen. So we need to talk with the people. We need to see what is the level of change, what happens, and if they are willing to change. This could have impact again of what we planned in the beginning. As well, one thing to that, when we plan the change, it makes sense, again, coming back to point number one, to define at the end what are the KPIs to measure at the end the success if the change has really happened or is adopted in the right way. What we discussed all day long, leverage as much as possible from the Power Platform. This does not mean running the system like it was designed for Microsoft. Again, the Power Platform, Dynamics 365, is designed to be configured, to be adopted, to bring in new stuff, to change it, to make it your system at the end. Power Platform is a big accelerator in that way if you use it in the right way, right? So you can have some quick wins quite soonish. Things can be adopted, processes can be adopted, but to not use too much heavily development, right? At the end, it's only the skill set of the developer if the system at the end has a pink elephant in the right corner or not. But the Power Platform, this is scalable, this is updatable. In that way, you will not run in further or later issues. And you can have POCs or smaller test pilots quite quickly. You will reach the point or the limits of the Power Platform capabilities for sure. But this is why we have the developer as well available to work on things like integration and other stuff. But the more we use from the Power Platform, the faster we are in the beginning. The earlier we can make the decision, are we moving into the right direction, yes or no. Monitor, measure, change, iterate, right? When we define KPIs, we should follow up on that. So otherwise it makes no sense to define them in the beginning. And this was as well, there was one of the examples from Siemens Mobility this morning. At the end, there was the board decision, it needs to be done. It must not be always top down, right? Order by Mufti, you would say in German. Must not be always that scenario, but you need to have the buy-in from the management as well, that they follow, that they have a clear sponsorship, that they are behind you, because if you change business processes, this has impact. And you need to talk about the impact before the impact has occurred. So you need to have the alignment with the sponsorship team or management team, but as well with the internal IT team if they are not already involved. Those are at the end only 7 points, but I would say that the most important key points if we talk about resource management and if we want to introduce resource management for a certain company.
One little question, point 2, accurate skills management. I think I remember from Rupa that he said in a co-pilot scenario or agent scenario there would be maybe some improvements, that this wouldn't be required as such. Did you have already some option to play around with the new AI features? And if yes, what would be your take on it?
Sebastian, are you here? Have you had a chance to play around? Because with new one, I only see the mock-ups, the screens.
Yeah.
Not had a chance to really play around. Have you had a chance to play around with that already?
Not what we have seen today, because today was really brand new out of the press, so this is not yet public. So I also only have seen what we have seen today.
Okay, so, but as of now, if we see the last feature which was released with the resource recommendation, this is still leveraging the roles, the skills and proficiencies in the tool. Not in the same way like it was done or like it's done in the schedule board. Schedule board, you really search for the certain parameters. Here they only look what they have typically assigned in the past. So they collecting the data from the past to make assumptions for the future. This is what they're doing now. Later on, I could imagine that it is not longer needed, but let's see.
That means further, the system is looking back to project references, which we did, not in a skill matrix or whatever, where all is in, coming from the education and the branch expertise and so on.
Yeah.
That the agent is looking for the projects.
They
which are in the system.
currently they're looking, so this is, I can only talk about the recommendation
Yeah,
feature
yeah.
which is currently available. This is screening the time entries of the people, it's
Okay,
screening
yeah.
the tasks
Yeah,
at the end
okay,
they were assigned to. It's screening as well, or it's comparing what was planned as an effort or assigned as an effort, what was reported via the time entry, so this is the
These were the
efficiency.
KPIs which were on this
Right.
one slide as well.
That is checked currently.
Okay.
I know you have a lot of custom things what you have added, because the out of the box is only using roles and skills. That's it. You have added as well education, project experience,
references, yeah.
languages. So
Yeah.
a lot of custom additional attributes which is taken into consideration when you search for the right fitting resource, which is quite common as well to have those additional parameters. As of now, you cannot modify that for this resource recommendation part. You can only change at the end the weightage behind, but the parameters are currently fixed for that. But I think this will change. This is what we see with a lot of features. In the first release, they define the parameters so that they have it under control, that they see what will be the outcome. And usually, depending on the usage, in the next releases, in the following up releases, it will be more flexible, that you can bring in your own parameters as well, that they should be taken into consideration. But this would be contradicting to what Ansgar has asked, because in that way you would again set it up. This was more, there's nothing you need to set up, you only need to create a resource and the rest will be done in an automated way. Yeah. Let's see, never say no.
That's why I asked to play around with it and don't trust the marketing. Well, of course, we trust the marketing via Microsoft premises, but
Be careful. Yeah, everywhere are microphones. No, to play around is always, we could add it to the list, test it, or maybe we could say start small, means as well doing a quick POC for the feature before you will decide if it is a good one or not.
Just a question, Manuel. Do you have customers that really use the default resource planning way that Microsoft has thought about? So like with planning projects, booking resources, and aligning resources, because it's like, I think it's quite a lot of effort for getting what you want to have at the end. So are there customers who are really doing this, or is everyone building this?
I'm pretty aware that Fabian has used it in the beginning at least, right close to that. I'm not sure if you still use it in that way.
For that reason.
For that reason.
We started with the standard process, but we also decided to have a different one, yeah.
I think it
Sorry.
I think the idea behind this is not wrong.
Absolutely.
For the initial planning, it works as well pretty well. The issue is starting when the change is happening. So there are two choices: prevent changes in your project. Okay, then we need to adopt. I think as well. This is a different scope of the application, right? The resource management module was introduced with field service in the beginning. This is why the bookings are happening really on a daily level, or intraday, even based on hours in between, which is working for field service pretty well. But in a project, we normally don't take care if the task is done on a Monday or on a Tuesday, or if the task is done even in the morning or in the afternoon. We know this is 8 hours work, we have a week of time. Make it when it fits to your schedule. That's it. And so this is usually what we quite often do in the meanwhile. We skip this concept of using the bookings and we only work with the assignments. This is much more flexible in that way instead of using really both sides end to end. This was not an answer to your question, but I would not I'm not aware of that at least.
Actually, I have a client who does it exactly that way, but before he uses project operations, right? And that was one of the first clients where I see that really doing this really on a day-to-day level, exactly like this, like planning the resources out in the tasks, doing the same for change orders that are coming in, evaluating what they have planned, and then really allocating the resources with basically bookings. In there, they're doing it in an ERP system, right? To ensure that they have like a really alignment of the resource planning coming from the project side and the booking scenario.
Do they have a kind of a project management office who is like aligning that between projects? Or?
It's something like that, like it's like an extension of the project managers, right?
Yeah.
But need to say the same. Is this scalable to the whole organization? It's only a very small part of the organization in Austria. No, it's not. Right, 80% of the organization does it differently. They are also struggling with their issues, but this part of the organization is. So I think the key is that the project plan is up to date in one database, and if it's not, then start there. And
yeah, this is well. There were several releases in the last couple of months as well from the scheduling part, but only a few people have really realized that there was a change because everything looked the same, but they changed the whole technology behind to overcome the performance part or things what we sometimes had when we have larger bookings or stuff. So they did a complete rework of the technology in the background, and then they have more goals for the next releases. They are aware of this imbalance between the leverages, but it's as well not that easy to change for them. So, but let's see, they have good ideas.
You already said that we shouldn't ask, but I have to ask because you said that it's not possible to use every type of resource in project operations. And is there any chance to use any type of resource which is able to hold more than one person in project operations? Because we would badly need that. And for me, to be honest, it's a bit surprising that because it's completely normal in the software development to plan to teams and not to people, and we would need that. So I'm not asking why they did not do that, but is there any chance to plan to a group of people in project operations?
I mean, the resource type is available. It's called pool, right?
It's not working. I think
It's
I
not
tried
working.
it.
No, it is. I only say it's available.
Okay,
it's not.
yeah.
It's not.
Okay, thank you.
So, actually, we had done some workarounds, but they are really workarounds to achieve that. But we will continuously, if maybe when Rupa comes back tomorrow, we can ask her again. So we continuously ask, maybe helping that. They want to use it as well. They want, it drives a little bit of complexity behind, because this pool type resource is set up in a different way. So if you create this pool type and assign people, the capacity on a daily level is increasing. If you are now assigning at the end this developer pool to a task in a project with a capacity of 80 hours a day, the task will be done quite quickly. But at the end, only one developer should work on that. And this small piece is currently missing. But I guess, or I hope, still have not lost my hope. This hopefully will come.
Yeah, okay.
Then we will do. But as of now, only the reference.
Yeah. From my side, here's a question. Your recommendation was then, especially for projects, if you have changes and so on, to use the assignments instead of bookings in the schedule board. And that's my question, am I wrong? Or is in my point of view, there's no possibility to see then actually if a resource is available or not. So you need to have this in mind, or need to set up, for instance, a Power BI report for identifying this, or because I think all of
you would need to work with a kind of a different UI. Could be Power BI, could be a Canvas app, for example, to see the availability of the people.
But out of the box, you can't see that.
When you work with assignments, you will not see the availability of the people. This is the downside on that part. I know that you have created this link to manage the updates. This was the example we talked about earlier today. Perry, I can name it, right? Okay. So, next time I should ask earlier. They there was a configuration done in a different way. There we have created a one-to-one connection between the resource requirements and the task. So whenever you now shift the task, this will automatically update all related bookings in the background. In that way, well, not. You want to explain it?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
So I'm selling this, by the way. So no, we have implemented this for all of my customers basically. So what we've done for what Marco just mentioned, the challenges out of the box. We are not scheduling tasks in project operations. We are scheduling resource requirements, which are based on assignments, which leaves us with this missing link between a booking and a task. So what we've done for Peri and for Siemens Advanta as well is we generate the requirements based on the task. We do not use team members. Team members don't exist in our point of view. So we have the requirements done on a task level, meaning the bookings happen on a task level. This gives us the possibility to create the assignment to the task based directly on the bookings. This gives us the possibility to cancel the assignments if the bookings are cancelled. This basically removes all of the extra work that you have when you change any bookings. Then you have to go back to the project plan, delete all of the unnecessary assignments, or assign the resource to a different task, assign a different resource to a new task. All of that we can automate in the background. So that's one way of solving this issue. So basically we took the opposite of approach of just working with the assignments. Now we're working only with the bookings, and the assignments happen automatically in the background. With the added benefit of that, we solved this issue of being able to search by availability. We still have all the possibilities in the schedule board. We can use all of the criteria. We can see the resource availability, and the assignment itself is just an afterthought. But yeah, so this is one of multiple possibilities of solving these issues.
Converting at the end the way how you do it. You all familiar with those words he used? Bookings, assignments, resource requirements.
More than I would like.
Right now.
Yeah, it on the one hand side it provides flexibility, on the other hand side it's sometimes, yeah, it is like it's, it drives complexity. Yeah.
Mix it with time zones. Really.
There was a sign outside. Maybe you have not seen that time zones are not allowed in this. Yeah, time zones is as well when we talk about bookings and or resource. It's really something to consider. Really, it depends on your business. If you really need time zones, only that you have people in different countries is not necessarily need to work with multiple time zones, right? So only if this is really, this should be considered in the beginning as well, because the time zones is always something which, yeah, thank you for that. I looked for the right word, I thought.
Manuel,
Yeah.
Helena said to me that there's a question.
Oh, me?
Yes.
Not seen that, so sorry.
No, I withdrew my question. Or let's go. Okay. No, I was just wondering if it's also possible, if you want to keep working with the task grid and members, individual people, but you also want to use the bookings without, always having to manually deduplicate and stuff like that. Is it possible, and do you have any customers who do it like that, to have resource assignments and then create the bookings automatically? So basically the reverse of what we heard earlier. Is that a feasible approach, or?
We've done that in the past for PSA actually, but we stopped. Not remember the reason why we stopped doing that. That we automatically, because we create a lot of data in the system always, and this had caused some slowdowns. Because the bookings are done on a daily level, like I said before, and this one-way direction is quite easy doable. So initially you assign people, you create the bookings as an outcome. This is a one-way direction. But what happens if someone goes to a schedule board and change the bookings or replace the resources? And that way you need backwards update at the end the assignments again on the project, and there you have the missing link. So you cannot easily create a connection between that. So you need to build something in between which allows you to connect the records with each other. And this is unfortunately a lot of records that you create. But it is, we combined that as well in the past for easier reporting, because it's as well not that easy to read the calendars or the availability of the people. So we combined that in a separate table to track the availability, the time off, the track time on the day, the bookings, the assignments. So it was a simple or easy to use table for any kind of reporting for the resources. This had some advantages, but sometimes it really leads to the point that this operations has to be done in Azure again, because a plugin was simply not enough to create all of the records accordingly. But we should we discussed that a couple of weeks ago. If we again take a look into that direction, because a lot of things has changed in the platform. So nowadays maybe it could be feasible to do that. So the team is looking into that again.
One thing I think, I don't know who had this question of time zone. I was reading through some release notes. Microsoft acknowledges this, and with some latest release updates, I think they have gotten some time zone agnostic fields up in the system. They will come soon.
It's coming this year.
It is
already.
coming. So Ansgar, I think we should learn some things from you going forward. But you have
You have Peter still embedded in the service, so he's still
exactly. No, but then plan it starts from there, and then maybe they are getting into more things going forward. But yeah, you are aware of it. That's fantastic. Great.
More questions?
Can I now actually plan my field service workers and project workers all together in the same multi-resource or unified resource scheduler or not?
Those are the same resources.
Yeah.
Right. So the system is not distinguish which module is using them. The only is the type of resource which makes a difference. So project operations only can handle from type contact or external resources, normal internal resource, generic equipment, and I've got one. Only those types can be handled within project operations, can be used for planning. Field service can use resource groups, pools, and the others as well. And customer service is a different kind of setup, but they can as well use the full set. But it does not make sense to use pools in customer service, for example, because there you have your queues, which is at the end more or less the same concept behind. And you would duplicate the concept, and you have a queue where a pool is responsible. Makes not really sense.
One more question. Should anybody do IT service management with customer service or field service or something like this? Because I would like a solution integrated in Microsoft Universe.
Yeah.
When I ask the consultants, they lead me to ServiceNow or something else.
Yeah, the big difference here is if you take ServiceNow, for example, ServiceNow is an IT service side certified tool. Customer service can maybe do the same, but it's not certified. You need to adopt it, to follow your processes. They can be ITIL based at the end, but the tool itself is not certified for that. So, which means you need to do it on your own to bring it into the shape what you want to do. And I guess a lot of Microsoft partners are using that in that way exactly. So we are, for example, using it. I know it from other Microsoft partners because in the past it was just there, so they started using that. And you can configure it to be ITIL conform, but it is not by default ITIL certified, which is in that kind of business a big difference. And maybe you should have a look in the new thing in this contact center. It's quite interesting for that kind of processes. More questions? We can continue outside as well. So
The outside is, I think, in the cantina again.
No, in
the lobby cafeteria. In that cafeteria.
Okay. All right. And thank you very much.
Thank you.